Get started here in just a few minutes. Thanks for coming on. And just double checking here before we get started. Can everybody hear and see okay? Get a raised hand, or you can use the chat option. Raised hands, okay, awesome, good, thanks. If you have questions, Darren, if you want to use the chat, you can do that. My daughter Katie is on, and she is going to be monitoring that and letting me know as we go through if you guys have any questions. So I noticed some of the folks on here, some of your names, I know you're already homeschooled, so that's awesome. I'm glad you're participating with this too, because that'll help. And then also those of you who maybe it's just something that you're kind of interested in or seeing how to get started, or you've decided you want to do it and you're ready to get going. Glad you're here too, so feel free to ask questions. At the end, I just have a PowerPoint slide to go through, and I thought that would be good for the folks who couldn't make it on right away today. That way I can email that out, and it's got all of the contact information locally for Tennessee, and then that might help you get, if you're not in Tennessee, get some information from your state. It's not that much different across the country for homeschoolers. Most states are pretty much the same. There are a couple of different things like what type of education you need to homeschool, but there's always other ways to register yourself through different agencies, and we'll talk about that too. So. I really appreciate you guys sharing this information, and I know it's just such a everybody's trying to figure out what to do this school year, or if you've already been homeschooling, you know, might be some new tips and things like that too. So. Well, it is 1 o'clock, so I think we'll go ahead and get started. I would like to start out with saying that the reasons people homeschool are varied and vast, and all kinds of things that work out for each different family. So whether you should or should not homeschool, that's really up to you. I'm not here to advocate that you do it or tell you not to do it. It's a choice that I made for my family that worked out really well. So if it's something that you're interested in for your family, hopefully I can give you some insights onto what it was like as a homeschool mom and what I experienced, still continue to experience, because we do have a full homeschool program at our martial arts school, and you know, just being connected with the families there and all the different things. I do know that, you know, I started homeschooling about 24 years ago, and boy, the internet and Google would have been very, very helpful at that time. So I envy new homeschoolers with all the resources and things that you have available. But most of the things I did were hands-on anyway, so it was a lot of fun. Okay, so I do have a slideshow just to kind of get us started and stay on point. Remember, please feel free to ask questions in the chat, and then I'll be able to answer those after we go through, okay? So some of the big questions that I've had, let's see, there we go. Okay. Um, are how do you actually just get started? So let's go through that. Maybe. It worked 3 minutes ago. There we go. Okay. All right. So the goal is to how to get started, support groups, how to get connected in with that, curriculum choices, and then what about high school? Okay. So in the state of Tennessee, and for those of you who are not in Tennessee that are joining us, you can find your local, Florida.gov or wherever you are. And under the education school options, you can kind of see the website there. They're going to have all of the rules and everything for homeschooling in your state. So I kind of just put it all together here for those of us in Tennessee. Like I said, most of the United States is very similar. You have independent homeschool. And what that means is you register with your local school district. So whatever age group, grade your child is in, you would contact your local school. They tell them you would like to register as an independent homeschool. And from there, you just fill out a form. They do require all of the same things they do for all of their other students. So physicals, shot records, all the birth certificates, things like that. So you do need to go just as if you were registering them in school. If they've already been registered in school, the school should have all that information already, just a matter of filling out a form. So it's pretty simple that way. One of the benefits of registering through independent homeschool, registering through your local school district, is it is very, it's easier to get access to if you have a child with special needs or learning disabilities, things like that, the things that the school offers in those terms, speech therapy, for instance, your child has easy access to that. I have been trying to contact the schools about if you're under the next column, the church-related umbrella school, how easy that is or difficult that is. So some of you guys that are a little more in the homeschool process right now might have a better answer for that. I've had a little difficulty getting an exact answer on that. So if it is very important for you to have access to special needs and educational things, supplements for your child, then going through an independent homeschool registration with your local school district might be the easiest thing to do. Now, I do know that on the website, the Tennessee.gov, it says that you have to register before school starts. If you continue to read on through that information, they have made a change to that. You can start school and then, 3 weeks in or 3 months in, decide you want to pull your child and from the public school into homeschool. You can still do that. You're not, you don't have to make the choice to, if I make this decision, it's for the whole school year or for the whole semester. Either way, you can start and end at any time. All right. The same thing with the church-related, the umbrella school. Basically, all an umbrella school is it's another school district. Okay, and it's just for you to register, instead of registering with your local elementary, middle, or high school, you're going to register with this school. All right, it's just like if you were registering with a private school. It's just that it's not, they're not often buildings, it's more of just an organization that you register with. So that is an option also. And one of the things that works well with that is that they keep track of all the records for you. So you would turn your attendance in, you turn your grades in. When you need transcripts or you need any kind of proof of your child's education and what their curriculum was and what they studied and all that. An umbrella school, it's really nice to have that on a, an official document. My child graduated from such and such academy, or from the 5th grade, they completed this schooling at this academy, as opposed to maybe just something that you typed up. And it just gives it a little bit more credibility. And if you're looking at this for the long term, that is helpful when you want to enroll in colleges, apply for financial aid for school, things like insurance for their car, getting their driver's license. It is very nice to have an agency that is going to help you get that information. And it's been my experience that they're very quick with that. It's what they do, and they're very happy to help you. So those are 2 of the options for homeschooling. And the accredited online school, again, it's really just like signing up for a private school. And as long as you're keeping records and you have an agency that's keeping records for you, everything should be just fine. The laws in Tennessee are that they go 180 days in a school year and 4 hours a day. Neither one of these options, the independent, the church-related, or the online school, all of these can give you guidelines as far as what subjects they should be studying, but really what they study is completely up to you. All right. Do we have any questions on that so far? Let's see. All right. And let's see, let's go to our next slide here. The independent homeschool, we did talk about this already quite a bit. The school that you register with is the one that they would go to. All right, so in your neighborhood school, you would just register with them. Again, 180 days, 4 hours a day. 3 days a week, we did 4 hours a day of schooling, and then a couple of days a week, we supplemented that with field trips and physical education, things like that. So whatever you choose to do in that 4 hours, as long as you keep track of it, it's really, really up to you. A field trip certainly counts. All right. The independent homeschool does require that you have a high school diploma or a GED. And that's different from when I decided to homeschool, because at that point they did want me to have a teaching certificate and a college degree. I did not have those things, so I chose to go under the church umbrella. And that's the option that I took when I homeschooled my children. And I found it to be very simple, very easy. Some of the church umbrellas, the school umbrellas, do require a statement of faith. So there's some, and they're all different. So you might want to look at that and see if that's something that fits into the values of your family. You do have to do the standardized test, 5th, 7th, and 9th grade. You also have to do that under an umbrella school. Your children still have to take those standardized tests. If they fall behind 2 years in a row, at least one grade level, then the school is going to step in and see about possibly putting them back into public school. It's not a definite, it's not something that you have to be afraid of. It's just something that is a possibility. So you do want to make sure that if they're supposed to be learning division at this age, and that's going to be on the test, that you are kind of teaching them that. Those are some things, the language arts, the math, those are things that are important on those standardized tests. Okay. So what PE, that's a question, what PE counts? All physical activity counts as PE. It doesn't have to be an organized sport. You could have your PE be as simple as, we're going to go hiking. We're going to go hike 2 times a week for half an hour. That's as simple as it could be. Or it could be, my child is signed up for tennis lessons, or something like that, or an organized group like we have our martial arts classes. Those are certainly considered as physical education. So you really have all the freedom in that. So PE, physical education, um, even things like history, you know, which type of history, American history, world history, history of your state, history of your country, history of a different country, all those kind of, you know, you're studying history, it really is kind of wide open as to how you're studying it and which part of history you're studying. And then the same thing with the physical education. You know, is it something that is physical? It doesn't have to necessarily be a book on, you know, nutrition. I mean, it could be that, but it doesn't have to be. So a lot of flexibility in homeschooling, which is one of the things I really liked. Okay. Um, and then you do, if you go with independent school as opposed to an umbrella school, you do have to report what your curriculum choice is going to be. They can give you guidelines, but they don't tell you what you have to teach. Even if you go through your school district, it doesn't have to be what the school district is teaching. Um, they'll let you know what the children will be tested on, especially in those 5th, 7th, and 9th grade years. You do need to make sure that your children are prepared for those type of tests, but supplemental things that you study are completely up to you. Okay. As far as number of hours for PE, there is not a set number of hours. There's not a set number of hours for anything like how much time you spend on math, for instance. If your child is doing their math and they're testing well on it, how much time they spend on it is not regulated. How you choose to spend your 4 hours of school a day is completely up to you. If you wanted it to be 3 hours of physical education and 1 hour of math, you know, because we're going to go on this big hike today, and let's get your math homework done, and then we're going to go swimming. You know, you have that freedom and you have that option. You know, and schools do that too. You know, the kids are at the park all day. They didn't actually do any academic work, but they had a great experience out and learning from, you know, the museum or something like that. So it's perfectly okay to put that in your homeschool and count it as school. We did a lot of traveling. That's one reason we chose to homeschool, because we traveled so much. So there was a lot of opportunity to add schooling in by visiting different state parks, museums, all kinds of things like that while we were traveling, and I could count those hours towards school. Okay, let's talk about re-entering school, because that's a big question and one number of people had. So if you decide that you want your children to go back into school, they are going to ask that they take an assessment test. And this really is not something to be afraid of. All right, it's not, especially for your elementary age groups. And some schools may not even require it. It may be something very simple, you know. Don't think of it as they have to test over the entire grade and make sure that they know everything. I would ask if you're thinking about, I'm going to come out and go back in and, you know, just kind of work that way, talk to your school and ask them exactly how they handle that and what, you know, what are the child expected to learn to get back into school? What kind of tests are you looking at them taking? Ask those questions for your local school district ahead of time, and then you'll be well prepared. You'll be well prepared for that. But I know it can seem like, oh my gosh, they're going to test my kid, which just means they're going to test me, and am I going to do it right? One thing I really hope everybody has a takeaway from this is that you can do this. You are going to be able to teach your children what it is that they need to learn to be successful, to graduate with good grades, and go on to the next stage of their life after school. You know, as long as you are staying on top of it and testing them, making sure that they understand they do have to complete this in order to get to the next level, and follow those type of guidelines. How you present that material and, you know, that sort of thing is really going to be, how does your child learn best? And we can talk about that in just a little bit also. Let's see. So how do you account for the field trips? You know, I just kept a calendar of school days. It was really just to keep the attendance. And, um, if we went somewhere on Friday, it would be like, we went to the Hands-On Museum, which is a local museum that we have here, or Great Fossil Site, or something. We spent 2 hours, and you don't even have to go into detail about what they learned, or who they talked to, or what books they read about it, or anything. You just, we were there for 1 hour, and that accounts for 1 hour of our school day. It's just a line item. It doesn't have to have a lot of details in it like that. And the field trips, so subjects and field trips and PE and all those things. So keep in mind, they're your 4 hours that you spend in school. It doesn't have to be, 1 hour of this, 1 hour of that, 1 hour of this, 1 hour of that. It can be 20 minutes of this on Monday, and then we spend an hour on it on Wednesday. Or, we took a 2-hour field trip. It was a very physical field trip, so we did some education in that, and we also had physical activity. And so then when we came back, we spent, 20 minutes on each of our subjects just to keep on top. You don't have to keep track of how much time you spend in each subject. You do not have to do that. In fact, you don't even have to put what you did in those 4 hours. You can just say 4 hours of schooling. If you want to list out field trip, you can, but you don't have to. It does not have to be that exact. The main thing that the people who are looking at for the children who are being homeschooled is that they can read, write, do their math, have knowledge, or studying things, it doesn't even have to be the same things in the school system. What you want your child to study about history, that's completely up to you. Nobody's going to tell you they have to study this history. There might be guidelines, there might be suggestions based on their age and grade, but that's all they are, guidelines and suggestions. Here's an example. So my kids are 2 years apart in age. So things like science and history, we could study those things together as a family. One didn't have to study 3rd grade history, and one had to study 5th grade level history. We just studied history as a family. And I remember sometimes they were curriculum based, where I bought a curriculum and we worked on it. And then sometimes it was, hey guys, we've never really studied World War I and what that was. So we actually just went to the local library, checked out books on the subject, spent some time reading them together. I had them write essays on what they learned from what they read. So we took a semester to study, World War I and what that meant and all the different things involved in that. So it was a great history unit study for our family. And all I had to keep records on was that we studied history and not how much time we spent on it or, what books did we read. We did not have to get that detailed at all. Nobody was going to check that. They were just going to check that we did history. I graded their writing, and part of that's English. So English and grammar is the writing part. Studying is the history. So 2 subjects in one. And that works out really nice too. All right. Let's see. I think that finding tutors for your children. Your local high school and local college students are looking for ways to tutor. Some of them want to be teachers, and especially if you want to pay them to tutor, depending on your child's age level. I actually, when Keith was in high school, Katie did go finish at Science Hill, but when Keith was in high school, I did hire teachers, a chemistry teacher and a math teacher to teach. He was tutored in those 2 subjects because I did not want to go back and learn all that again. But there's lots of options. If people know that you're looking for a tutor, it should be pretty simple to connect. All right, so for high school, that's a little more complicated to enter back into high school. To go back into high school, they do need to test in every subject. And they do need to pass each subject, and they'll place them in the right place. So maybe you feel they're at 10th grade level at homeschool, but when they test in 9th grade level, and the school's going to put them in 9th grade. If maybe they test at 11th grade level, or maybe it's a mix. Maybe some subjects they're ahead, some subjects they're behind. Excuse me just a moment. So it's just another incentive if higher education or going back into school is important to you at some point. Do make sure that your children are on point with studying the same things that kids are studying their age, right? So you do want to definitely keep track of that. A couple more questions here. I apologize, I have been talking a lot today. Just a couple of things, like I mentioned before, special services are provided to homeschool students. They can try out for athletic teams in the state of Tennessee. I'm not sure about other states, but as long as they meet the same criteria and they are athletically skilled enough to be on the team, the children can. Again, I have not quite gotten the answer if you are under a church umbrella, if they can try out for athletic teams. So maybe if somebody else on the webinar today has that information, that'd be great to share. In the church-related umbrella school, now under the independent school, your children would test with the other students on those standardized tests. In the umbrella school, your umbrella will instruct you on how to do those standardized tests. You cannot give the test. It needs to be an independent person who proctors the test, and then another person will grade the test that actually should go through the umbrella school. And that's important. I looked at a bunch of umbrella schools for this webinar. I mean, just list and list and list. And I put some on here in another slide. But some of them, like I mentioned here on the slide here, example, some schools don't have a website. Well, that would be a huge red flag for me, because are they really up to date? Are they committed for the long haul? You know, you don't want to start with a school and then they don't continue on, and then you're kind of stuck, and where are they, and where are your records, and what do I do next year? So make sure that you do find one that's been in business for a long time, that they have a lot of testimonials. Maybe you can talk to other homeschoolers who can refer you to what they use. I use Family Christian Academy as my umbrella here in the state of Tennessee, but I know there's others out there too. Also, some of them require a statement of faith, so you do want to make sure that you do agree with that, obviously, before you want to participate. And then a letter of recommendations or referrals. So just read everything first to make sure you know. But there are so many choices out there. here is a list. I'm going to be sending this to you so you don't have to write this information down. And that's one reason I did want to do a slideshow, is so that you could have this record. While you guys are looking at that, are there grants or fundings for homeschool students when they're ready for college? Just like, just like every other student that's going into college, especially in the 11th grade year, you know, this is when you need to start looking at what colleges do they want to go to, what things do they want to study, and you need to make sure that they have the ACT, the SAT, what's required of those colleges, and you can sign up and they'll take that actually at the high school with the other high school students. You just register them to take the ACT and they take it with the other students. As far as funding options, there are, just like there are thousands upon thousands of scholarships, you know, scholarships for this, scholarships for that. And just do your research for scholarships for homeschool students entering college. Of course, here in the state of Tennessee, the junior colleges are paid for by the state, so it's the same for homeschool students. The college is just going to have an entrance exam. They're going to have need your transcripts from high school to know what you took, what your grades were, you know, what you've studied, and it's just the same for any other student registering for college, right? It doesn't, the fact that you were homeschooled shouldn't have anything to do with being able to register for college, as long as you met the requirements and you can pass the entrance exam. But there's not special funding as far as from the government for homeschool students, but there are scholarships. So your FAFSA that you fill out for education, for the funding for scholarships and grants and things like that. You should be able to go through the list when you're going through that and see if you can apply for any that might relate to a homeschool student. But just like there are for golf or tennis or, people with red hair and freckles, you can find a scholarship for just about anything out there. You can see it's a pretty extensive list. So again, this was the state of Tennessee, and basically if you're in another state, you can look up umbrella schools for homeschooling in my state, and you'll find agencies that are in your state. These are two groups, and this is something that I think is very important if you're going to homeschool, is to find a local group that other homeschoolers that kind of connect, somebody to talk to about new rules or regulations that might be coming out. Getting groups together for, sometimes there's a discount. We would get a group of people together to go to the zoo or something, and because we were a school group and we had X number of people, it was less expensive for us all to go together. Plus, it's a lot more fun that way too, and provide the experience of that for your kids, getting able to be with other kids too, and gives you time to meet people also. But these are two that are in the state of Tennessee, here locally in the Johnson City area, East Tennessee. And again, those of you who do homeschool, if you have things that you can add to this, that would be helpful. But they can just connect you to like co-ops. Co-ops are where groups of families get together, and somebody who has a specialized training can teach the children in the co-op whatever the subject is, so they can all come together and learn chemistry, or they can all come together and learn math or literature. And usually these groups are very small, it's like anywhere from 5 to 10 kids. It's not usually much bigger than that. So there is a lot of individual attention, and that's a benefit also. And the person who does the co-op also can give you resources as the parent, and also help with, giving them a test, giving them assignments, things like that. Another thing that's helpful to get in with these groups and find out what they're doing is, for instance, music and art lessons. You know, you can find people who are teaching art classes for homeschoolers, and that's a lot of fun. You know, the kids can go to a class and get all the hands-on art and you know, sculpting or painting, and learn from somebody who has a passion for that. So that's nice. Also, maybe group music lessons or individual private music lessons. Those, of course, count in your homeschool day. You know, a half hour of piano, that's as part of your music lesson. You know, that can be part of your curriculum. Art is definitely part of your curriculum. Home ec, learning how to cook and use the washing machine, that's can be part of your curriculum. You know, so just be creative. Don't feel like it has to be 4 straight hours and sitting at a desk learning, you know, book work and worksheets, or in front of a computer for 4 hours. You can be very creative and open and hands-on, and make it exciting and fun for the kids. But these groups can kind of help you to get in with some of those extra things that might be kind of hard to find, like art classes for homeschoolers, or group activities, or let's get together. Also, if you're involved with a local church, sometimes they'll have homeschool groups in the church, and that group can get together and do things as well. So, all right, curriculum. So this is where, you know, I kind of get excited about curriculum. As somebody who kind of writes curriculum, that's fun for me to see all the options. But the first 2 that I listed on here, and you can get curriculum from anywhere, so it doesn't matter what state you're in. You don't have to get Tennessee curriculum if you live in Tennessee. You can buy anything from anywhere, and they can go online school anywhere in the world. Don't forget languages, like if you want them to learn a different language, that can be part of your homeschool. But the first 2 on here are what we call secular or non-faith-based curriculum. So any of these others also, they have like a Bible study, or, you know, creation study or something like that in them, and you have complete choice over what you teach and what you don't teach. So if you choose a curriculum, it's not like you have to use all of it. You know, maybe like, I really like this part of this curriculum, but I'm not so happy about this part. So you can, you know, get curriculum for that subject from another group. It's not an all or nothing thing. You know, you can purchase Rosetta Stone for your foreign language, and you can do some online study for math, and then maybe you do a hands-on, you bought this curriculum for science. You can just mix and match it all together. And that's kind of the beauty of it too, is because every child is really different and they all learn differently. You can find, you know, and let your child kind of pick what they like too. If they invest a little bit in the decision making, they're going to be more apt to really get into the subject. So you have those options and that flexibility also. But the first 2 I listed were just something I really liked. Actually, I liked all of these. That's why I put them on here. But there are literally hundreds more, right? So if there's something on here that doesn't appeal to you, and you want to find some more things, certainly feel free to look. One of the things, I used a variety of different things. Like I said, we would, you know, I just used the library. It's free. And we used that to study our history. But some of the things I did like was, I used this one right here, the Alpha Omega, and we used the workbooks. And I liked the workbooks because they were 1 workbook per subject a week, and at the end of the week there was a test. So there was something that we could really go through, finish, and then start something new the next week. And it was already planned out for me, and it was planned out for the kids, and it was very easy to follow. So I enjoyed that. The kids enjoyed that. They liked finishing something instead of a giant big book that's going to take them 12 months to get through. But we did that too. So I put that one on there also. Varsity Tutors, I think that is mostly online. And then Liberty University actually has an online homeschool, which I didn't realize that. I know they have the university, but they actually have homeschool online curriculum, so that was exciting. And then one that I found that I hadn't heard of before, maybe you guys have, is called Good and Beautiful. And the one thing I really liked about this curriculum was you had options of the hands-on work or online classes, so I like that. AOP also has that options, and many of the others do also. So if you wanted to have some hands-on and some online, most of these here have that capability. But one of the things I liked about the Good and Beautiful was that they had, if you have more than one student or you have a larger family that you're trying to homeschool, they have a curriculum that's set up for families such as science. So the science lesson, the family does it together, no matter what the age group of the children are. And that's nice because everybody's kind of learning the same thing at their own level. They provide a lot of games and activities and, experiments and things like that. You can all study it together. And then when you get something that's more like grammar or math or something that's more age appropriate, they have separate things there. But it's all packaged up, one and done for you. You purchase the curriculum and then you just follow it. And one of the things that people have asked is, I'm not sure if I can do the math. I can't even do their homework with them right now. How could I do this homeschooling? Well, the nice thing is you have the textbook. You don't just get the homework sheet home. You actually have the textbook. So you can go through the lesson and learn it together or relearn it or learn it the way that this textbook is teaching you. And it's really simple and it's really easy to do together. And if the night before you want to look it over and, or take some time on the weekend to look through the whole week of what they send you, you can do that. But you get the advantage of having a teacher's book, a curriculum to help explain it to you so you can then explain it to your child. The other thing that I think is really beneficial if you have more than one student at home or a larger family is some of this curriculum is going to work for one of your children and some of it's not. They all learn differently. So you can kind of mix and match that way too. So this child really is very well self-directed. They are engaged in an online study. This child needs a little more activity, a little more hands-on, more of the let's make a game out of this, so there are options for that too. Which I'm not sure I understand this curriculum. The curriculum with the test at the end of the workbook, that was the AOP, this one right here. You can buy just the English or just the history, or you can buy like a whole year's worth and it's got all the subjects in it. It just like anything, you can spend a whole lot of money or you can just spend a little bit of money. It really just depends on how much you want it done for you. Our history, for example, that year that we went to the library and got books, well, there weren't really tests in that. The tests were the writing assignments. Did you remember the concept of, what we read in this chapter? And then basically it was discussion test. Tell me why did this happen? What would have happened if that had happened? We had those type of discussions as far as making sure that the kids understood what that time period was all about and who were the parties involved and what did that mean for the world. We used the writing, like I said, as their English and grammar, and so grading those, working on their grammar, things like that. But the AOP, those workbooks just had the test on the end. And for us, school on Friday was test day. So we studied all of our subjects Monday through Thursday. Friday was test day, and when they were done, they were done. The other thing that's kind of nice, and some people have this in mind, is, you know, how to start school and end school. You have all the flexibility in that. That's also one of the beauties of homeschooling, is you can set your schedule, what works for you and your family. And it didn't say, it doesn't have to be 4 straight hours, okay? And it doesn't have to be from 7 a.m. to, you know, 7 to 12, or, you know, 7 to 1. It can be 9 to 11, and then, you know, 3 to 5. You know, just you have that complete flexibility, because every family is different. Yeah, the question is, can you do these curriculums help you get ready for high school? Absolutely, absolutely. I was a little bit concerned, you know, for Keith going into high school, knowing that he was going to college. He homeschooled through high school. So I called up the high school and said, you know, what are the books that they're learning for science and math? Those are the two that I felt like I probably needed some extra help in. And so I just purchased those textbooks, and I had a tutor who taught him through those textbooks. And the tests are actually those high school level textbooks like that. They actually have math tests in them. So he just worked through like that, and had no trouble entering college and doing well in college and all of that too. So these curriculums will help you get your child prepared. But if you have any concerns, just always call the school, or you can call the college that they're interested in, you know, a couple of years in advance, and say, what are you expecting from a student that enters this college? What do I need to prepare them for in high school? And you can tailor your curriculum around that. But for middle school and elementary, this is going to be good stuff. No problems. When you start talking about where do you want them to go to college and things like that, do your research ahead of time so you know how to prepare them for that. Know what SAT score they need. Know what ACT score they need. You can start studying those things in 8th grade. You know, you can start prepping them for those tests very early. And usually, as long as they have good grades and really good scores on those tests, which they can take multiple times and get the best score that they can over the years, they're going to be okay going to school. Let's see. I think that is all the questions. All right, so now questions from you guys. I'm going to stop the screen sharing. Let's see, let me put one more up there. This is how, if you have extra questions or things come up, or you go back through and you listen to this and you're like, man, I should ask that, please feel free to ask me, and I'll help you find the answer, even if I don't know it offhand. Like, I'm still working on that one. If you go through a church umbrella, can your kids do play sports at the local school? That I don't have a clear answer on that yet. Maybe some of you guys do. But remember, if you came to the webinar today, you are going to get one of my books. I have 2. It's the Create a Happy and Harmonious Home, and then also Parent Survival Guide. I like both of them. I think they're fun. They have some stories from my life as a kid, and then also some from my kids. All right. Okay. All right. So any more questions from you guys? I so appreciate you guys doing this. And like I said before, my main thing is that if this is something that you want to do for your family, you can do it. I want you to have the confidence that it's going to be fun, that you're going to make it. 180 days, that is also up to you when those days are. If you wanted to do school on Saturday and Sunday and take Monday and Tuesday off, you can do that. You know, if you've got a family, like I said, we travel a lot, so we would take some school with us, and they could do their schoolwork in the car or at the hotel for a few hours before we had to do the rest of our day. And, you know, maybe we had 160 full days, and then we had, you know, the other 20 was broken up. Maybe it actually took us 40 days to get those, you know, half days of school, and we just extended that. One of the things that I also liked was doing, because we traveled a lot, I did year-round school. So we did school year-round so that when we took our vacation time, we could take off from school. And then we just, when we were home, we just schooled. So, you know, we didn't have necessarily this 3-month summer break. We just had different breaks throughout the year. So I really liked that flexibility. Okay, so here is UH has homeschooled kids on its sports team. UH is a school here in our local area. It's considered a public school, but they do have a limited number of people. It's done by lottery. You sign up for the lottery, and if you get in, you can go to that school. So it might be a little bit different than some of the regular public schools, but they do have homeschool kids on their sports team, so that's good. I think that that's something that they did not allow when I was homeschooling my kids, even if I did register with the school. They did not allow that, but now they do. And I think with everything that's going on right now, everybody's going to be very wide open with all the options. You know, if you were ever concerned about what people were going to think, because you were thinking about this, one, don't. It's your family. You can lead your family the way you think is best for them. And but two, now it's kind of a little bit easier. People aren't going to say, well, why are you doing that? You know, there's just a little more acceptance and freedom about homeschooling. But you can do this. You can have a great time doing it. Katie, or do you think there's anything else I might need to mention? Or we have, she said a lot of people are saying thank you. Well, thank you. Thanks for this opportunity. And I really do have a heart for helping people know that if this is something they want to do, that they can absolutely do it. Whether it's for a short time or a long time. And, you know, I mentioned on the TV show today that, you know, I did homeschool my kids, but I've also been teaching homeschool children for 20 years and teaching them martial arts specifically. And yes, martial arts does count as PE. And I'll tell you something else too, is in our leadership program, if you're here locally, or maybe some of you have I know we have some people from all over the country here today. The leadership program counts as public speaking. It counts as extracurricular. It counts as some of those performing arts. You know, they have to get up and perform and do their moves. So there's a lot of ways that you can take something that your child is learning and see, wow, oh wow, well they're doing this, and they're in the, you know, there's science fairs for homeschoolers. You know, and that's why it's important to get in those groups, and they get in that science fair and they get to compete and they get to see how they're doing. There's spelling bees. There's everything that there is for any student in the United States, there are for homeschool students. So I have just seen kids over the years, over the last 20 years, they do great. And it's not like you go, oh, that poor kid's homeschooled. It's like, wow, really cool. That kid, you know, look at how confident they are. You know, look at what they're learning, and they're typically very excited about learning, and they're also very excited about being with other kids and having a good time. So you're not gonna hurt your child or slow them down or hold them back by homeschooling. If anything, you're gonna give them opportunity and freedom to flourish. You know, and I know homeschooling is not for every family and it's not for every kid. The dynamics don't always work. It really is just a personal choice. But if it's something that you choose to do, just know that you can do it, and know that there's a lot of help out there and a lot of resources. All right, so If there's no other questions, then I think we will call it a day. And I so appreciate you. Best of luck. Stay in touch. Do make sure you contact me and let me know if you're not in the local area where I can send you the book and which one you want. If you are in the local area, just stop by the school, pick one up, said you're at the webinar, and we'll make sure that you get one. It'll be at Olson's Martial Arts Academy. All right. Okay, guys, have a great day, and thank you so much. I appreciate you, and good luck. Take care. Be safe. Okay, so just an amendment. Well, that was good. Y'all know what I mean. Okay, so addendum. That's the word I was looking for. On if you work from home or even if you work outside of the home and you're homeschooling your children. So I did work outside of the home and I did work from home. I did both. And one of the things that really helped was to set a very strict schedule on when school was going to be done and when it needed to be completed. And some days were different than others. You know, if I was home during the day and the kid and working from home, and I actually went, I did some online college courses from home for myself. So I was in school, they were in school. So we had a very set schedule for that. There were times when I needed to go to work and I happened to have the flexibility of bringing them to work with me. And so when I would go to work, they actually had a special place where they would do their self-directed schoolwork during that time. The most important thing that I found was checking up on it, making sure that they did complete it, making sure that they were keeping their grades, following through on that sort of thing. So that might be something I would do, not necessarily every night, but maybe on the weekend, kind of catch up. And then if they did not complete something, you know, that they were actually really good about doing what they were told and finishing it. Because when they were done, they got to do the fun things they wanted to do. But setting your schedule, sticking with it as much as possible, that is something that's really going to help if you're working at home. Even if you're working outside the home, you have an older child that's doing an online academy, just make sure you're staying connected. And I put in the notes there that if they are doing their school online, then the online school should definitely be keeping track of their grades and attendance, and they'll stay in contact with you and let you know, just like a regular school would let you know if they were having trouble with attendance or grades. So it certainly can be done, and it's really not that hard. You just gotta set the schedule, get started, and then follow. Give yourself some flexibility too if you need to adjust at some point. So that would be my answer to if you are working and trying to homeschool, which is something that I did also, and it worked out just fine. So, and were there any other questions? Okay, all right. Okay, everyone. Well, thank you so much, and thanks for attending, and good luck.